Dr. Haber.
Yes, Penny.
This just arrived, the population report you wanted.
Oh, yes.
Dr. Mergen called on a consultation.
Tell him I'm too busy.
And this notice from HEW. They're sending an observer this morning to look at the augmenter.
What? Damn bureaucrats. Why don't they mind their own business?
Oh, and Mr. Orr is here, Doctor.
Well, George, you're early today. Something of a breakthrough, I'd say, considering you're usually 15 minutes late.
I am?
So how are you feeling today?
So-so?
How can anyone feel so-so on a magnificent day like this?
Well, you know what the Greeks say. Moderation in all things.
So what would you like to talk about today?
Oh, I don't care.
Do you have somewhere to go, George?
Oh, no, I'm just anxious to get started.
Well, another breakthrough. 2 in 1 session. Shall we try for 3? Yes, what is it?
Miss LaLache from HEW is here.
All right, send her in. Seems that my fame has brought me to the attention of the HEW. They're sending an observer to make sure my work with the augmenter is on the up and up. Isn't that ridiculous?
Dr. Haber, this is Heather LaLache.
Pleasure to meet you, Miss LaLache. Won't you have a seat right here?
I assume you were informed I'd be recording the proceedings?
Perhaps you'd better ask the patient's permission. Mr. Orr, this is Miss LaLache of HEW.
Do you mind, Mr. Orr?
No, go ahead.
Very well. Dr. Haber, is the patient diagnosed as neurotic or psychotic?
The patient's diagnosis is not for public record, Miss LaLache. I'm surprised at you. Besides, it's my augmenter that interests you, right? Well, anyway, you know what they say. Neurotics build castles in the sky, psychotics live in them.
And psychiatrists collect the rent.
Very good. Very good, Miss LaLache. Well, have you any questions before we start?
Can you explain the role of your device?
Yes, of course. My augmenter here merely ensures that my patient will dream by instigating and reinforcing his own dream state activity. What do you say, George? Shall we run off a dream?
Okay.
Incidentally, Mr. LaLache, this will constitute a record for your people that my augmenter does not loosen toenails, harden arteries, blow your mind, or have any ill effects whatsoever. Standard hypnotic procedure, Miss LaLache. Though a bit disconcerting to the uninitiated, I will admit. Please turn your recorder off. A therapy session is not for public record. Notice the accelerated pulse and the rapid eye movements. He's ready to accept a suggested dream. Now, George, the last time you were here, you were telling me about something that bothered you very much. You said you felt restricted and closed in on the subway, in your office, in the streets. Do you remember the word you used?
What did he say?
Overpopulation. That's what he said. Now, George, when I say the word Antwerp, you are going to have an effective dream about this thing that bothers you, this overpopulation. You are going to dream about space, about all the elbow room in the world. You'll feel uncrowded, unsqueezed, and this overpopulation thing will not be a problem anymore. Antwerp. God. What has he done? 6 billion people.
All the people. All the people.
George. 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 You had a bad one, George. Where are they? Where are the people? You dreamt about the plague.
Plague.
But it's all over now. All of us who survived are genetically resistant.
What plague?
Oh, my God. I just killed 6 billion people.
I'm afraid this is the first time Mr. Orr has handled anxiety in a dream. It's not always pleasant.
I don't understand what's happening.
Don't you remember the plague?
Of course we do. I lost my parents, my 2 sisters. I watched them die. None of us could ever forget it. But it's over now, George. The plague ended 5 years ago, and we are the survivors. Life must go on.
You remember the plague, don't you? And don't you remember that you never heard of the plague until just now? That there wasn't any plague until an hour ago? You remember? Don't you remember?
Joyce. Mr. Marsh is hardly qualified to comment upon your session. She's only an observer. I'm afraid he's a bit agitated. It has been a difficult time. Perhaps we'd better adjourn.
Yes.
I shall send you a full report of the augmenter's operation and current uses. That should take care of it. I'm sorry you found this distressing, Mr. Lash. But you hit a real crisis session. Goodbye. Thank you.
Well, we really did it this time, didn't we?
Come away from the window, George.
You saw it. She saw it. 6 billion people wiped off the face of the earth.
What do you want me to say?
I want you to be straight with me.
Why don't you go home, George?
Admit it! Take responsibility for it!
Oh, I see. You're trying to transfer it all to me. You want me to take responsibility for your problem. Well, I can't do that, George. I'm sorry. I'm sorry you had a bad dream, George. But it was your dream. It came from you, from inside of you.
You're cracking up. Surely you can see that. You're a psychiatrist. I'm going to pieces here. You asked me to dream again, and what kind of world are we going to get? Maybe a totally insane one? Full of monsters? Or demons or witches? Dragons? All the things that we carry around inside us, all the nightmares, the fears. What's going to happen when that gets loose on the world?
Are you quite finished? Your negative approach to
It's your positive approach that's the danger. Solve the population problem. See what happens. Don't you see that these things aren't problems? They don't have answers that you can find in your arithmetic book.
defeatism. We were put here to make the world a better place.
Your attempts to use my dreams to make the world a better place can destroy it. It's not so hard to destroy the world, Dr. Haber. We did it. 4 years ago, April.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Don't think that you can outthink God.
You're worn out, George. You'd better go home and get some rest. The session is over. You go home, George.
I don't know where home is anymore.